And sure enough, that drive and belief in himself helped Nathan land a spot on the roster and the chance to swim for Paralympic gold in Rio.
So Nathan Clement for Canada is the next in the pool.
It is one of those things that you can never take away now.
That was probably the happiest day of my life.
He'd always had this goal that he wanted to qualify, and when he did, it was a no-brainer for us to be there. We had to be there.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone is having a great day. We're your hosts, Luigi and Dana from the Canadian Health and Fitness Institute, as usual. And on today's episode of Let's Move Canada, we will talk with former Paralympian Nathan Clement about what inspires him and what he does to stay healthy in his life, right? And before we go right into it, let me start by saying that this podcast is brought to you by the Canadian Health and Fitness Institute, whose mission is to make Canada the fittest nation on earth by 2030. And to this end, of course, our podcast aims to raise awareness about physical and mental health. And now, time to introduce our wonderful guest, again, Nathan Clement, who has just the most wonderful story. In Nathan's journey from para-swimming to para-cycling is one of the most resilient and triumphant stories that you'll hear. After facing many setbacks, including a stroke at a young age, he found his passion in cycling during a 1,000-kilometer trek through BC in 2020. And despite injuries and challenges along the way, Nathan soared to become a world champion in paracycling, winning gold and bronze medals at the 2023 UCI Cycling World Championships and the Paralympian American Games. His story reminds us that with dedication and perseverance, we can overcome really any obstacles and achieve our dreams, while balancing, of course, personal pursuits like studying broadcast and online journalism at British Columbia Institute of Technology. Here we go. Well, Nathan, welcome. So happy to have you here. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Luigi and Dana, for such a beautiful intro.
Pleasure.
Oh, thank you. We're so happy to have you here and tell us about your story. So we want to start off with our first question, which is, tell us about what it was like growing up. Were you really active as a child? Did you play sports? Did you play outdoor activities with your family? What did you do?
For myself, growing up, I come from a very athletic background. My mom was a triathlete, as well as she held a provincial record in summer swimming in British Columbia back when she was a kid, as well as my dad played junior B hockey in Ontario for the for a while as well. He played provincial rugby and skied with some of the top skiers back in the crazy Canuck era of skiing in Canada. So I very much have very strong athletic parents. My brother was a hockey player, a rugby player, and a soccer player. And my sister was a very highly regarded and very talented dancer and gymnast for the longest time. So I very much had sport. As I got older, that was a huge part of my life, but I was very, very little when I suffered the stroke, and kind of growing up as a toddler and as a kid, I sort of shied away from sport till actually my brother started getting involved in hockey and soccer, and I would go check out his games, go check out his events. And after just being there for about a year, 2 years of watching on the sidelines, I was like, you know what? It's my time to give this a shot. And I joined my first soccer team when I was 9 years old, and just that love of sport and that passion has never left my body since. Whether it's swimming, soccer, I even tried water polo for a brief little bit, as well as cycling. So sport's always been a huge part of my life, especially growing up and getting over those original hurdles that I had, and then it's just taken off into something I just love so much.
Amazing. Wow. It sounds like from early on, not only were you exposed, but you also had your role models, your inspiration, your community to really help center you in this, right? Aside from the individual, the internal drive to do all of this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very, very fortunate to have had a mom and dad like that, especially when I had my stroke and we had our early diagnosis of what was going to happen. They had a very athlete mindset of looking at it of, okay, we're in this situation now. How do we better it? What can we do? how do we work on developing skills for Nathan, skills and different activities that's going to help me function and be able just to be the best version of myself that I can be for myself as a very, very little
Right.
kid. And that was often even playing games like with for example, like having me climb through like little tubes or little jungle sets as a kid on playgrounds, or even that they'd set up through occupational therapists that I had. And all those times when I'm doing all these different activities, I think I'm playing around, having fun. Little do I know I'm regaining muscles in my body, I'm regaining strength. And that was one of the things my mom and dad did by getting me on a stationary bike as a very, very little kid, watching Thomas the Tank Engine, watching Ants in My Pants, watching Pengu, watching all these different kids' TV shows. I would be spinning on the bike, I'd be moving my muscles, I'd be having that a part of my everyday. And for a while, once I was doing those activities as a little kid, I kind of went into a shell for a few years where I didn't want to try different things. I didn't want to try different activities. But that sense of community really came out when I tried soccer for the first time, when I got involved in team sports. The team I joined for my first soccer team just so happened to have a couple guys that would go on to play in the NHL. And these were top level athletes at already the age of 9-10 years old in our little age grouping. And then there I was on the field who could barely run, let alone kick a soccer ball. And I'm on a team with soon to be NHL stars. And we had a real concern after that first practice that our coach was going to kick us off the team. And actually, as we were leaving the field that first day, my mom, dad, and I were all walking, and the coach, John Leckie, called out my name. We turned and we thought we were going to have that conversation of, hey, it's great that you showed up, but this doesn't seem to work out. We thought it was going to go that route. John came over to me and said, hey, Nathan, you did a great job today. Keep working hard. I need you to work on your dribbling skills. And having someone like John, who brought me into that community, brought me into this world, and my teammates who were super supportive, gave me that confidence at a very, very young age, and really helped me develop those skills and try and fail too. And let me experience what it's like to succeed, but also what it's like to face the adversity, to face the hardships of what we all go through in our everyday life. But I was very fortunate to have had my parents at a very, very young age take that approach of, we're not going to shy away from certain things, but we're also going to let myself go through my own organic process of when I'm ready to try sports, by watching my brother play soccer, watching my brother play hockey, even going to my sister's dance recitals or going to her gymnastics competitions, and just let me have that natural progression to when I wanted to join a soccer team. And then once I was on that team, taking that leap of faith, taking that lunge into the deep end where I couldn't run, I could barely kick a ball, but I was so fortunate that I had the supports and a coach named John Leckie, and just a team that got behind me and supported me and really helped give me the skills and gave me the opportunity to find something I love and try something that we could have been hesitant from or even shied away from, but we jumped off that deep end and it was either sink or swim. And luckily we were able to swim in those cases. But I'm so fortunate to have that sense of community, and that community has really taken me all through my sporting journey, even starting as a little kid.
That's so heartwarming, that story.
Very nice.
I gotta ask, was there any time where you felt, I give up, I'm not doing this anymore, I can't go on? Or were you always just like, no, I'm just going to keep pushing forward, I'm optimistic, I'm positive? Like, did that ever cross your mind?
It has here or there and it's sometimes it's a really it's healthy to go through thoughts like that as you're trying to experience different feelings and you're trying to figure who you are and what you want to do, especially as a youth or as a teenager. I remember when I first got into swimming, I got into swimming because the coach with the Canadian national, what's now called parasoccer, what was called cerebral palsy soccer back in the day, recommended me to take up a second sport to help my conditioning. And I wanted to get into swimming. I was trying swimming. I was really enjoying the sport, but as I was developing my skills, I was struggling to keep my head above the water when I went to breathe. and would often cause me to choke and inhale the water as I'm racing, going max efforts. And it kind of created a bit of anxiety and nervousness whenever I would go to race. Like, I was nervous to race. I had races where I would be doing fantastic, then all of a sudden I would choke on the water, and then I would see my teammates and see my coaches all watching me try not to choke on the water. And it caused a
Scary.
lot of it was scary, but it's also very nerve-wracking because you didn't want to go through that again and again and again. And I was
Right.
so fortunate. I had coaches and I had my parents who sat me down being like, you got to do what's best for you, but we're here to help you and guide you through this process,
Wow.
help you regain that confidence, help you regain that skill, and just take that time to be there for me, which is the most valuable thing a kid or a youth can have, is just someone there to listen and someone there to be a support in moments like that when you're trying to figure out what you want to do and you have something you love, but you're facing the challenges of, can I do this? Do I want to do this? And there were times when I was starting out my swimming journey where I thought about quitting right away, but I had my coaches and I had my parents sit me down being like, all right, let's work on how can we make this better and find a solution to that problem. And I'm so lucky I had them in that situation, because like any athletic journey or any career journey or anything we go through in our own life, we're going to hit our peaks, but we're also going to hit our low points too. And that just happened to be one low point, and just navigating the waters through there to get me up and reach another peak. But I'm so lucky I had those kind of people in my corner.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing this with us, because I think there's probably, a lot of people that think, oh, this person's successful, nothing, they may have had challenges, but they never gave up, or they never wanted to give up, or nothing. And I think that that's an important lesson, not just with sport, right? With a lot of things in life, where a lot of people have faced some, big challenges that they've overcome and became successful. And they definitely went through times where they were like, this is too hard. I can't do it. But also, like what you're saying, having a really strong community around you, having support around you, how helpful that is. And just to know that other people have gone through really hard things as well. Like that's an important thing to remember. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Shout out to the parents, the coaches, and the team,
Yeah.
right? It really
Yeah.
takes a village to help anyone, really. So that's great. And did you do soccer for long before transitioning to swimming and cycling?
I did. So I started playing soccer at the age of 9, and I joined the Canadian National Development Program or squad from about 2010 to about 2012, where I was going to different camps in the US, but also in Canada too, training with the first team, but also just getting match experience, getting game experiences in some ways, and like some friendly matches and just training environments.
Yeah.
But while I was doing that, I started to swim, and swimming really took off for me. I was with a great team, had a great group of people, and a big thing for me, and I'll say it now in my own journey, is that sense of community. That sense of community has been a huge part of my life and a huge part of why I've been able to do the things I have. And just that sense of community and swimming really took off when I was 16, 17 years old. And I had to make a tough decision of what sport did I want to follow as I was graduating high school. And as much as I love soccer, as much as I love that team and love that program, something was calling me towards swimming. And at that moment, pardon the pun, but I dove headfirst into swimming there, and really became a huge part of my life as I started training, really trying to take that next steps. And even though I switched over to swimming, it was definitely not that easy breeze. The first full year out of swimming, first full year out of soccer, I missed out on 2 teams I wanted to qualify. And I spent that whole transition from my first year out of soccer to my second year out of soccer trying to figure out, how do I make the national team? How do I get to represent Canada? And it required a lot of work and a lot of training, but from about 2012 to 2013 and into 2014 when I finally qualified and made my first national team. It was a lot of learning, a lot of different experiences, but something I'm so grateful for and so lucky for.
Can you tell us, like, what was a week like for while you were training for the Olympics as a swimmer? What would be a typical week of training look like?
So typically for me, leading into Rio 2016, and during that time, for myself, with the condition I have dystonia affecting my left side of my body, a condition very similar to cerebral palsy that causes a lot of high spasticity and a lot of irregular arm and leg motions just throughout all parts of the muscles and all parts of the body. So for me, actually, where training more impacted me worse than training less. So from about 2013 to 2014 and even into 2015, I'd be pushing myself doing 2 a-days, doing 3 a-days in the pool and in the gym. And it would just be extreme training all the time. And I would constantly be getting hurt, getting injured, and then I would miss time. And as we were going into the 2015, 2016 season, I sat down with my coaches and we came up with a better schedule, a schedule more suited for me, where we'd be targeting the quality of practice versus the quantity of practice. So I would actually only swim about 4 to 5 times a week, where at max it'd be 2 hours. But I'd be really fine-tuning, working on certain skills I needed to work on, and really developing that, where I had a gym program after and before one or two of my workouts, where I'd be working on mobility skills, really trying to keep my shoulders loose, trying to keep my right hip loose, because that's one of the things that when you only have one working arm and your main event is butterfly, which is extremely taxing on shoulders, on hips, there's a lot of strain that comes. So a lot of my training was built around letting my shoulder recover, letting my shoulder take its recovery, take the stretching, take the mobility that it needs, so I can reach the times I want to reach in the pool. And it really helped shift and change me into a different mindset of how training can be done versus the atypical 20 hours in the pool versus maybe 5-6 hours in the pool that I turned to. And I felt that was a huge difference in just being able to bounce from workout to workout and just have that longevity in that year, where Rio 2016 was the first year where I didn't battle injuries till at least before the games.
To your point of longevity, I'm wondering if that's, it's with these updated exercise regimen that allowed you to just continue to stay with it, right? And just continue to progress. So I'm very curious to know, with all of this, if you could tell us a little bit about some of the more memorable things that you can think of, right? So a lot of these memorable moments in your career.
Oh man, I've been so lucky, because although I'm new into my cycling journey, I'm very much, I would say, a veteran of parasport. Playing soccer. First thing that comes to mind is playing in a friendly match in the US, down in Las Vegas, like right off the strip. At the University of Nevada, Las Vegas campus there, and just like the heat, but also seeing the strip in the distance and just being in that environment, and going to swimming, getting to experience the 2015 Pan Am Games in Toronto, being able to race in front of a home crowd, seeing 6,000 people in the stands, screaming, cheering for Canada.
Cool.
And just even one moment that sticks out most is seeing one of my teammates, Nicholas Guy Turbeat, hit the wall, winning gold, and just hearing that crowd just go into absolute uproar.
Crowd goes wild.
And even for myself, I was very lucky to win a bronze medal at the Pan Am Games, a pair of Pan Am Games back in 2015, and having my parents there at the pool, celebrating with them as I was getting out of the pool, just doing a little like fist bump. But probably in swimming, I have a lot in swimming, but the one that sticks out most was in the Rio 2016 Paralympics, I had qualified for the S6 50-meter final by about 0.2, 0.3 seconds, like a very narrow margin. So top 8 swimmers got to compete in the finals. And since I had the slowest time of the finals participants, I would be in lane 8, which in swimming, how they introduce the swimmers is they start with lane 8, then they go to lane 1, lane 7, lane 2, and so forth till you get to lane 4 and 5. And for myself being in lane 8, I'm the first person to go out for the finals. So they put my name up on the Jumbotron, Nathan Clement from Canada, and there's a couple like claps and cheers here and there. But the next person after me was a Brazilian. And as soon as that Brazilian flag went up on the screen in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, I have never experienced a volume like that where
Patriotism.
it was just insane. It was fans and everyone in that stadium screaming Brazil, Brazil, Brazil for about 5 minutes straight, where I had a coach who would help me dive off the blocks just so I could correct my hip position. And we get up on the blocks trying to start the race, but we can't hear anything at all. We can't hear the start gun. We can't hear the PA system. And my coach is right behind me yelling, Nathan, get off the blocks. Nathan, get off the blocks. I couldn't hear any of it. It was deafening. It was ringing. And it was something so special just to be a part of that and get to experience something like that. But
just like energy, hey? Just so much energy.
That energy is incredible. And that energy too. I got to be at the Parapan Am Games in Santiago, Chile back in November of 2023, and just being down there and being in the small town that we were in, there was a lot of Chilean supporters that came out, and just the crowds were absolutely phenomenal there, and just that energy and that vibrance wherever I've been able to race has just been so loud and so amazing for myself, but also so many other para athletes. And those are some of the small things that I don't think I'll ever forget. And it's just so lucky to have that and be a part of moments like those.
That's special, right? Oh, that's amazing. So what advice would you give to young Canadians that want to become competitive athletes?
I think the biggest thing, and I'm very lucky, I got to coach youth swimming for a while. And one of the big things I'd always teach the kids I coach is what matters most is, why do you enjoy doing this? What do you find most fun in this? What brings you the most joy in this sport? And that's the most important thing to hold on to and have, because being able to do a sport is so great. And it's so amazing to have the opportunity to be a swimmer, be a soccer player, be a basketball player, be a rugby player. And like anything we do, we're going to experience our great moments, but we're also going to experience the tough moments. And if you can really stick to what you love most and what you find most and enjoy about that sport, that's something that you're going to hold on to, whether you're going to be an Olympic gold medalist or a Paralympic gold medalist, or you're going to be a lifer in that sport, just doing it for fun every Sunday or Saturday, and just take in whatever you can there and just enjoy the fun out of it. And when you have that fun, that's when the passion, and that's when the results that can come in and make you those athletes you dream to be in. But you have to figure out what you love about it most and why you do it. And it doesn't have to be for anyone else's reasons but your own. And whatever reasons why you love it, that's what matters most. And what you're passionate about is the best way to follow it forward and really make it who you want to make it about, and make it about you.
Love this so
Great
much.
advice.
So wholesome, very wholesome. It sounds a lot like finding your purpose in what you do, and kind of just living it out. One thing that I think I was wondering about as you were talking about training, just going back a bit, was diet. I think, after any workout that I've had, if I go even just an hour or two without eating immediately, I could be bedridden for, sometimes. So I would imagine with intense training, you would need to have a solid diet, right? So could you tell us a little bit more about your, what your diet was like and what diet in general what role diet plays in general in your health and fitness?
Diet plays such a huge role in what I do on an everyday basis, whether it's the sport I'm doing or it's just me with my condition too, because there's certain different nutrients I need to tackle after a hard training session. And it's funny you're asking me that, because the first thing that came to mind is actually how when I was a swimmer, I was a sprinter. So the most then the furthest distance I would go would be about 50 meters. And then I transitioned completely into another world, into another sport like cycling, where you're going to be on the bike for 2, 3, 4 hours, possibly
Long
doing
distance, yeah.
100+ kilometers, which is a little further than 50 meters. So there's a lot of adapting and a lot of adjusting I had to do right off the bat. And I would go for bike rides with that swimmer's diet mentality, where I might be in the water for like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. I won't need any fueling outside of maybe some water, maybe some electrolyte drink. And boy, did I learn quick how much I needed bars and how much I needed that carbohydrate in me. Because there was many times when I get to hour 2, hour 3, and I would just be dying on the bike. But that was a very important adjustment I needed to make early on and really learn and grow as an athlete, is how important that nutrition, how important that food is. And it's making smart decisions. I'm very lucky in the rides I do. I'm burning 2,000-3,000 calories a ride.
Wow.
So it does allow me a little more leniency in how much I can eat, but it's just making sure that I'm eating the smart foods. I'm eating what's best for me, that's going to help me recover. So really trying to tackle all the main groups and just really be smart, but also doing sport. You get to, what's better than just sitting down with a full plate of food and just eating? And that's what sport can create, especially when you're tired. So it's really helped me look and tackle and focus on what's smart for me to eat and what's going to be the best things for me to eat. But especially when I transitioned from swimming into cycling, there was a whole lot of learning I had to do.
So are you eating like 5,000 calories a day on some days, like race days?
Some days close to that, yeah. I think like there's been some.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, there's definitely been
Because
like
that's all going to be like healthy food too, right?
Right.
5,000 calories of healthy food. That's a lot of food.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I always think about how much I'm burning. I never think about how much I actually, because for me it's just eat.
I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat, right?
Yeah.
If you look at like if you actually saw, well, a lot of it's probably protein, I'm guessing, or
Well, a lot of it's protein, mix of carb, definitely lot of vitamins, mix of this, a lot of fruits, a lot of veg, lot of rice, lot of the typical athlete, chicken and rice, pork and rice, the
protein, carbs. Do you ever have cheat days? Do you ever just go, I'm gonna eat like cake and
it's hard not to, especially in a sport culture like cycling, where you're just going all around. Where I live in Vancouver or other cities, that I get the bike in and you just see this really nice cafe out of the corner of your eye, and you're like, okay, I can make a little pit stop here. I got 10-15 minutes to kill. Oh, that cookie looks good in there. I can definitely take that on.
Oh, Vancouver's got so many good restaurants and food everywhere. It would be, impossible. We were talking to another podcast guest recently, and they were saying like the 80-20 rule. Like I eat, 80% of what I eat is really healthy, and then 20% is kind of like just for fun for me, kind of thing. Yeah. You kind of.
I would say that's a pretty accurate ratio, where very dependent on the sport you're doing. Obviously, you need to be tackling certain food thresholds and certain carb and caloric thresholds. Where in cycling, I'm very lucky. I have a little more leniency in what I can play around with as opposed to other sports, but definitely that 80-20 ratio is about correct, of just finding those balances where you don't need to go full stringent on it, where you can allow yourself to enjoy some more leisurely foods. But it's just knowing, like, when you're coming up to a race, when you're coming up to a competition, it's just dialing in what you need to do just to help
Yeah.
you know what's going to fuel that engine best.
Yeah, exactly. You get stricter around your competition.
Right. That
So
makes
tell us
sense.
about your future plans.
So right now, the big goal is qualifying and representing Canada at the Paris Paralympics. So right now, I'm heading off in the spring of 2024 to a couple qualification races over in Europe, one in Belgium and one in Italy, and everything goes right, qualifying again to represent Canada in Paris. But beyond there, I really want to help grow parasport in my home city of Vancouver, but also my home province of British Columbia and through Canada, and really looking at creating para races, para events in cycling, but also creating networks, creating frameworks through television, through the media that I do work in at the moment, as I am a writer and editor on a couple para sport and para and accessibility programs. So really just making sure that I'm growing my skills in my sport, but also reaching out outside of sport, whether it's development, whether it's education, and really trying to hone my craft and try to really put everything I'm working on right now together with some other traits I'm going to be trying to build and grow, and really just trying to grow para community in Vancouver.
Amazing. Well, good luck. Good luck at the qualifiers. We'll be following
you.
you for
Thank
sure.
you.
I'm curious to know, where can our viewers go to see some of your writing, some of the things that you kind of write about?
So I'm one of the shows I write for is called the Parasport Update. So it's broadcasted on AMI TV, or Accessible Media Inc. TV. It runs weekly on their digital platform, as well as their television, show, as well as the Canadian Paralympic Committee, as well broadcasts it on their Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and their YouTube page. So it's a weekly show that I write for throughout the weekend, just trying to figure out what a lot of Canada's para athletes are up to, whether it's competitions, training camps, accomplishments, accolades, just really trying to celebrate para sport in Canada. So that's one of the shows I get to do, as well as I also am a weekly, not a weekly, but I'm a community reporter for another show called Now with Dave Brown, which runs on AMI TV. And I kind of talk about accessibility events in Vancouver and how people with various disabilities can get out in the city and take the most that they can out of the summer, out of the winter, out of all times of the year, of finding accessible events that are able for everyone to get to, everyone able to access, and for everyone to enjoy. So that right now, there's a couple of the programs I'm working on and working with, and hopefully expanding that more and more.
This is fantastic. I mean, Paralympian, writer, it's just a lot of cool things, and
Thank you.
it begs the question. It piques my curiosity. I want to know, outside of these two wonderful paths, right? Do you have any hobbies outside of them? Anything else that you do?
I was an athlete. I love food, and I love trying to find new food spots in Vancouver, as we have so many just incredible restaurants and so many just incredible spots. But something I'm also really passionate about is photography, and I'm very lucky. I had a when I left swimming in 2018, I had all this money saved up for living in another part of Canada that I was living in at the time. So I decided to go travel, and I spent 6 months backpacking and traveling around the world, which I was very grateful and lucky for. And to be able to do that has really like kindled the fire of travel. And when I get the chance, I'd love to just go explore new places, whether it's in BC, or just all around Canada, or even if I get the chance to go somewhere else abroad, I would jump on it in a heartbeat, as well as just mostly doing anything I can in Vancouver. One big thing I'm trying to get into more and more is like graphic design, is animation, is editing, and just really trying to grow those skills and really just try to develop any way I can, more for fun and for leisure, but
Mhm.
also for anything I do in my everyday.
Very much a creative.
Try to be, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. What was your favorite place that you traveled to?
I'm I would say Japan. I would
Oh,
say
cool.
It's very
I
popular.
was able to go to Japan for about a month back in 2018. And when I was there, I ended up getting a Japan Rail or Shinkansen Rail pass.
Mhm.
So at that time in 2018, prices have probably changed since then. It was about $550 Canadian for 2 weeks, but you got unlimited Shinkansen rides at that time. So I would just take the bullet trains all across the country, and I got to see so many different parts of Japan that I would not have been able to see if I did not get the bullet rail pass. So it really let me just go experience the country, see a lot of pockets that you wouldn't see, and just really take in the food, take in the environment, take in the nature there, and just the energy of Japan in the fall.
Oh, that's so cool. I've seen a lot of Asia and Southeast Asia, but I've never been to Japan, and I want to go there so bad. So yeah, definitely gonna look into it a little bit more. Um, so our last question for you is, if you could change one thing about physical activity, health and fitness, anything related in Canada, what would it be?
I think the biggest thing for me is I have a very unique perspective being a person with disability. And as being a person with disability, it's the importance of development in grassroots for people with disabilities. And in that is a lot of the time is the cost of sport and how
Mhm.
expensive sport can be for a person's
Right.
with disabilities. For example, I would not be a world champion paracyclist if it was not for my organization giving
Wow.
me a tricycle kit, as I would not be able to afford that kit on its own. And there's so many other stories and situations of Canada's top para athletes being in situations where their equipment costs $15,000, $20,000, $40,000 just to be able to do the sport they love. And that's just on the para side. There's so many other aspects on the able-bodied side and on the Olympic stream. So one thing that is making great grassroots movements, but also something I really want to fight for and
Mhm.
really change, is making sport more accessible so
Right.
youth can get into para sport. Because if you have a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid who wants to try sport for the first time, wants to be a cyclist, and the equipment's going to cost you 8, 9, $10,000, there's already a barrier put in that place. So
Right. Yeah.
really trying to find ways that athletes and kids can not have to worry about that pay to play barrier and really be able to follow something they love and don't have to worry and have that pressure of, if I don't want to do this, then that's a massive financial investment on my family and a massive financial burden on a family too. So just really creating a path where everyone can do the sport they love, get outside, whether it's to be a world champion or just to be someone who just enjoys the sun in whatever city you're in, and just really get the most out of their everyday. Is really trying to find ways of making communities bigger, communities more accessible, and in doing so is just making communities more affordable where everyone can get out, everyone can follow what they love and be passionate about. And that's sort of
Mhm.
one thing I would like to change, but also one thing I'm going to be working on, hopefully building it so all these companies who are developing, all these companies that are innovating and building the equipment, and there's a lot of cost in that too, where they feel that support, they feel that 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 weight off them too, and just really making sure that these people who are innovating for, say, people
Mhm.
with disabilities are rewarded too, and really bringing everyone together into that sense of community, I feel is something I really want to change and really working on changing and growing.
Amazing. I really love your point about making community more inclusive, more accessible, more affordable, which really can contribute to making it an even happier place. Just so wholesome. I really love that.
Thank you very much.
I want to thank you one more time for joining us, and of course to everyone for tuning into this episode. Again, we're your hosts Dana and Luigi, and we are urging you to go to Nathan's Instagram page at Nathan Clement 11 to learn more about him. Right, so that is NATHAN CLEMENT 11, and you could follow him in his journey. And one thing that I know that Nathan is very passionate about is also bringing to light other Paralympians just like him that have one amazing stories and two are really preparing for that qualifying journey. So you can follow all of that at paralympic.ca. And yeah, so don't forget to check even our Instagram at Let's Move Canada for latest updates, and head over to our website at chfi.fit to learn more about our mission. And of course, don't hesitate to DM us if you're interested in being a guest on Let's Move Canada, on connecting more with Nathan, or anything else, right? Stay tuned for episode announcements. And that's it, folks. Thank you all. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, everyone, for joining.